welcome to the 6th FAIR Competence Network webinar. And the second thing I would like to say is that we are recording this meeting so that we can share it online to those who weren't able to join today. If you have any issues with being recorded, please let us know and then we can remove you from the recording that is published, of course. Welcome once again to a FAIR webinar. My name is Jeroen Peters. I'm working for RISE as a senior design researcher, and I'm moderating this seminar today. If we can go to the next slide, Simon. I will just first say something about FAIR for those of you that are joining us that need a refresher of your memory, or if it's the first time that you're joining us. The FAIR project is preparing the Kvarken region for an early implementation of electric aviation. So we're looking at quite a broad set of requirements. We are increasing the knowledge base, we're investigating the possibilities and surveying the needs from a technical point of view, but also from a regional development point of view. And you can see it very much as the first step towards the rapid introduction of this kind of aviation in the Kvarken region. I'm also very happy that this is the first seminar where we can demonstrate the expansion of the project that we've had towards the Norwegian side, the west side, so to say, from Kvarken, because we have Nordic and Mid-Scandia that have joined the project, so that we have expanded the reach and the knowledge base, and you will also hear something today from that point of view. That being said, we have 3 work packages in the FAIR project. The first one is the regional effects of electric aviation, where Umeå University, University of Vasa and Nordic Universitetet are working together. We have the guidelines for implementation, which is biofuel region and Mid-Scandia, and lastly, the cross-border innovation process run by us at RISE. If we go to the next slide, to sketch a bit the geography of where we are, because we've had some international attendance to these webinars in the past. The Kvarken region is the narrowest part, around the narrowest part of the Gulf of Bothnia, which is characterized by a very unique small distance between the countries of Finland and Sweden across the strait. We have now, as you can see, also expanded the project towards the Nordland county in Norway. So it's quite a nice broad band across this part of Scandinavia with very exciting opportunities for electric aviation in the very near future. Can we go to the next slide, Simon? So this is today's program. It's fully packed because we have a fairly short seminar today, so I will try to moderate the time a little bit strict. First, we have this welcome, and after this, we will have Arne, Ida, and Simon from Biofuel Region talking about the electric aviation report they have been working on. And after that, we have Kristin and Hans-Petter talking from a bit the new side of the project, the new perspectives on the project towards the west. After that, we will have some question and discussion before we close today's session, and we hope that you can all contribute your thoughts and opinions and knowledge in this part as well. Simon, please go ahead to the next slide. So without further ado, I want to give the floor to Arne Smedberg, Ida Norberg, and Simon Oya from Biofuel Region that will share with us a summary of their findings so far within the FAIR project. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And this is an interesting work that we have started, and we have made a report that you can find and download the full report, and it's about electric aviation 2021 and the technological overview. And we have the structure of the report is about electric aircraft and the different energy carriers and what the requirements of the infrastructure you need on the airports. Also the rules and regulations. We have a discussion part and some conclusions that we have got in this work. And if you look at the electric aircraft, there's a lot of advantages, as you get less noise and you don't need so long runways. You can take them down on shorter runways, and we think they are less expensive to operate due to the reduced amount of maintenance, but also the cost of fuel. And they also have a lot lower CO2 emissions. That is really nice. But there are also some limitations, and that's the biggest issue, is maybe energy storage. And then you get limitation in range and size of the aircraft. And also the charging standards are not, they are almost there. But it's also very much about regional traveling.
Okay, if we look at what is needed for the different energy carriers, both at the airport and in the aircrafts. So first, jet fuel that is used today. You need to refuel a refueling station at the airport. And in the aircraft, you need a fuel tank, and then you have a jet engine. If you use electricity as energy carrier, you need a charging station at the airport. And in the aircraft, you need one or several batteries and then electrical engine. For hydrogen, you need a kind of refueling station, either gas or liquid form at the airport. And for the aircraft, you need tubes to store the hydrogen. And then you need a fuel cell to convert the hydrogen into electricity, and then an electrical engine. There is also other types of that you can use. For example, you can use biojet fuel for the first one as a drop-in fuel instead of conventional jet fuel. If we take a look at the battery electric aircrafts, today there is more than 10 different aircraft that has done test flights. 1 to 9 seat. The one that is on the market is Pipistrel Velis Electro. You can see Arne here to the right, which has done a test flight with that aircraft in Skellefteå. And then you have another company, Magnix, which working with retrofitted aircrafts that are in the certification stage. It's down to the right here. They have a Land Beaver. And the Swedish company, Heart Aerospace, are developing a 19-seat aircraft with a range of 400 kilometers, and they are aiming to be on the market at 2026. Another project is by Aerospace that are developing the E-Flyer 8 with a range of 900 kilometers, and they are also aiming to the market at same time at Heart's aircraft 2026. And there are also several other projects that we are mentioned in this technology overview. So if we continue with the fuel cell electric aircraft, the benefit is that they have a longer range as compared to battery electric. But the fuel cells has to be complemented with a battery during the takeoff. Due to there is so much energy needed during the liftoff phase. Today there are 2 aircraft that has done test flights. Up to the right you see the ZeroAvia Piper M class that did it's a retrofitted aircraft that did a test flight last year. And then also HY4, the other plane here, did the first test flight in 2016, and they have done a lot of test flights last year by the company H2Fly. And both those companies are developing larger aircraft, 19 seats aircraft with the ZeroAvia have planned a market introduction already within 2 years for the 19 seat aircraft with a range of 560 kilometers. And H2Fly are aiming to have a 1500 kilometer range for a 19-seat aircraft planned to be on the market at 2027. Another project that are working with the retrofit an aircraft is the Havilland, Canada. It will be a 40-seat aircraft after retrofitting with a range of 740 kilometers, and they are planned to be on the market 2024. This is in a strong phase of development, and there are new projects popping up all the time. So maybe I have missed the latest one, I don't know. For hybrid electric aircraft, there are one electric aircraft that has done test flights, the Empire Cessna 3-seat. And what is meaning with hybrid is that one or several motors are powered by batteries, but there are still conventional jet fuel used. So there are both. The test flight was done in 2020 in Hawaii along an actual flight route. The Empire is also developing a larger aircraft, the Ottern SX, with a range of 320 kilometers, aiming for the market in 2024. Just short mention about larger aircrafts. There are generally more in the future, aiming for markets in 2030 to 2040. This one is a 70-seat aircraft, EAG Hera, with a range of almost 1,500 kilometers that are aiming for the market in 2028. So about batteries and the development. Today, there is lithium-ion batteries that is used, and the expected, so to say, maximum potential of those kind of batteries are around 30 passengers for 500 kilometers. The next generation lithium batteries is called solid state, and they have a larger, higher potential than today's batteries, and they were used for the first time in a test flight this year. To 2030, the believed development of batteries is that 50 passengers can go for around 300 kilometers. The challenges with the batteries is always the cost, and also the safety is a challenge because lithium-ion batteries have a tendency to get overheated.
If you look at hydrogen as an energy carrier, there's some advantages that you can. It has a very high energy density per unit, and it's 3 times higher than jet fuel. So it's quite interesting, but it's also possible to develop some kind of infrastructure to support on-site hydrogen production from renewable energy supply. But it also has some challenges, and that's about the transport and infrastructure solution at airports, and also the security. And it's to store hydrogen on board the aircraft can be also a challenge because it takes a lot of place. And now it's less than 0.1% of the global dedicated hydrogen production is green today. But if you're talking about hydrogen as an energy carrier, you think that will be green hydrogen.
Yes, and as a complement to electric aircraft, we have the electric vertical takeoff and landing, which is a sort of another kind of shorter range flying. It has a range about 35 kilometers or more, depending on the setup. And in Sweden, we have the Katla Aero. It's a Swedish development, which is a 2-person V2 with a starting weight of 600, which has done quite a lot of test flights and has come quite far. We have the Volocopter's Volocity, which aims to be EASA certified by 2026. with a 100 kilometers range and a little bit less payload than the Katla with 300 to 400 kilos. Then we have EHang 216, which is a sort of another kind of eVTOL with 2 seats and 16 propellers, and has a range about 30 to 40 kilometers. We don't know a lot about it. It's a Chinese initiative, but it's said to have about 6,000 autonomous flights with passengers recorded. And we also have the Joby S4, which is a 5-seat eVTOL with a 240 kilometers range. And they've done test flights in the US, and they are aiming for certification by FAA by next year. This is a parallel development to the electrical aircraft development for regional flying. And when it comes to charging at the airport, we have found that what's required at the airports to further the development is that you need a connection for charging at the tarmac, but you also need a certain distance from the infrastructure that's already in place for the regular aircrafts and motor-driven aircrafts. But we have no standards today. There's no standard for the charging station, and there is no standing for the connection. There are ongoing work on a global standard for heavy-duty vehicles, which will most likely include aircraft as well. They will probably not develop another standard, that they will go with this global standard. As for today, we have a 1 megawatt connection installed at Skellefteå Airport last year. And we have fast chargers of the same type as for cars at Visby, Säve Airport and Dala Airport. But in practical, today the aircraft companies bring their own charging station and use the connections that are provided at the airports. But Pipistrel, who has the VLS Electro, has developed a charging station for 2 aircrafts, which is a 20 kilowatt 2 output charging station, which can fill the Pipistrel in 1 hour to full. As for the future, the standard will be somewhere between 750 kilowatts to 2 megawatts, but we don't really know where it will land, but that's the range they're working on today.
And the conclusions of the report is that we think that traveling by electric aircraft with 5 to 10 years will most likely be possible, both technically and infrastructurally. And the development of energy carriers will probably be enough for a 50-passenger aircraft with a range of about 300 kilometers. And we don't think that the technical chance will be the bottleneck for this implementation. But the certification process is complicated and time-consuming and really tough for the builders. And it is hard also for the fossil-based propulsion. As Simon said, there's no standard for charging infrastructure today, but it happens a lot, and we think there's some kind of standards going on. And we think if we will reach the fossil-free aviation at 2045, we think that short distance that will be good for battery electric aircraft. The mid-range distances will be like fuel cell aviation with some batteries, and long distance will be drop-in biojet fuels. And now in this WPTO, we are working closely together with Mitscandia, and the project has gained exciting expertise and expanded short-haul flying in Norway, where it's possible to switch to electric flying and to be able to build routes between Norway, Sweden and Finland.
Great, thank you for the presentation. And thanks for this fantastic bridge, Arne, to our next speakers. Perfectly done. Next we have Kristin Frodal Ronjerud and Hans-Peter Carlsen, who will tell us a little bit about the upcoming regional report, amongst other things, and what is happening more towards the west. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Simon. My name is Hans-Peter Carlsen. I am the Secretary General of Mittskandia, who is a partner and financier in the FAIR project, and has been so from the beginning. Now, when we are able to include Norway as well in the project, it's more of a Scandinavian broad project than it was before, and we think that's a good idea. There is a regional report upcoming, and I will just guide you through what we will address in that regional report briefly, and then Kristin will tell you more about the Norwegian facts and findings we have right now. So as a backdrop to this, the region, this northern part of Scandinavia, is really booming right now. There's industrialization again. There are battery plants being built. High fossil-free steel is going to be manufactured in the northern parts of Sweden, and the region is really full of investment right now. About 1,000 billion Swedish crowns are invested in the northern parts of Sweden. It's the same for Norway and Finland. So Västerbotten, the county where we are right now, is the one with the highest growth in Sweden right now and the lowest unemployment rates. That gives a bit of a backdrop to the development of regional flying, and that also makes it plausible that travel patterns will be changing. East-west traveling will expand, and that includes both people and goods. Next slide, please, Simon. So we'll have a couple of challenges to the project, and also to what will be put in the regional report when it's coming out. Charging, as Arne said, there are no standards today. We will need to get some kind of standardization in that part, because otherwise electrical flying will be really expensive. Capacity. What kind of capacity are we talking about, and what kind of capacity is needed? That is for airlines and also for aircraft manufacturers to find out. What kind of regulations will be put in place regarding security, regarding, as you all know, Norway is not a European Union country. It's on the outside of the outer border of the European Union. Is that a problem? Does that affect regulations and standards? And who is going to take the lead in these developments? Is it the aircraft manufacturers? Is it the airlines? Or maybe the airports? Nothing is really decided there yet, but they will have to agree on who is going to take the lead in the development phase of these questions. And also regulation about aviation, as Simon said earlier, takes a lot of time. We have the European agency for that, EASA, and as you all know, when we change something in the aviation industry, it has to be certified, and the certification process takes a lot of time. So you have to have a working process, a working certificated process going while you develop the new one. With electric aviation, that is not possible because we have nothing in place yet. So this will probably be an obstacle that we'll need to address. Another one is that we have lots of procured air routes in both Norway and Sweden, and especially on the borderline here between the two countries. Those are extremely important to the people living here. They're quite short haul mostly, but the rules for the future are not really known yet about this. There are EU regulations. There are also Norwegian local regulations, and as Kristin will tell you, there are a few things about that is maybe not so coherent with the Swedish ones. And this will probably determine the supply of routes that will be available for us to travel in the future. Next slide, please. So to finish off my short introduction here, we have some small other issues as well. Well, there are lots of municipality-owned airports in Sweden. Those have subsidies from the national level. What will happen with that? We don't know yet. There is a system with which is called traffic duty in Sweden. That means that some of the smaller regional airports are actually required to have traffic to and from Stockholm today. If we have a more regionally based air route system with new patterns of traveling, not hub-spoke traveling, but more regional traveling, that means that this system might go away. What happens? We don't know yet. And of course, we also need to take into account the Norwegian regional transport policies, which is quite different from the Swedish ones and the EU ones. Thank you, and I'll leave the floor to Kristin.
Thank you, Hans-Peter. Representing the Norwegian part in Midt-Scandia, I will speak briefly about aviation in Norway and developments in this region, which is relevant for this project. As you might know, Norway is very much dependent on aviation. It's a large part of our public transport system due to our geography and for the people living in the districts. We have 44 airports. They are all operated and owned by Avinor. 21 of them are short runway airports. As you can see on the map to the right here, you see our extensive short runway network that connects the districts to the large regional centers, especially in the northern part of Norway. This network is huge. 75% of these flights, they have a flight distance shorter than 300 kilometers, which means that this is a suitable arena for the introduction of electrified aircraft. Widerøe is the company that dominates this short runway network, and thus they are a driving force for the electrification of aviation. As you can see on the picture to the right of that plane, that's an example. That's Rolls-Royce and Italian Tecnam that presented this spring a 9-seater all-electric passenger aircraft, which Widerøe has confirmed that is relevant for Norway. Next, please. And then we have Nordland, which is now included in the project. Nordland is an export-oriented region with marine industries and power-intensive industries. We have a total of 10 airports in this region. 4 of them are located in Helgeland. It's the southern part of Nordland that is bordering to Västerbotten. As you see on the map to the right, these are the 4, Brønnøysund, Sandnessjøen, Mosjøen and Mo i Rana. They are all short runway airports that have routes directed towards the nearest major airport, which is operated by JET, and that is Bodø and Trondheim. We are now planning a new large airport in Mo i Rana, which I will tell you more about soon. The passenger range in this airport is between 60,000 and 100,000 per year. And then we have Hemavan Airport just across the border. I will also mention we have this cluster up here in the northern Norway called Energy in North. It's a cluster with the partners in the energy sector that is working to get northern Norway as an international test and development arena for green aviation. And then we have 2 planned new airports coming up to meet the growth that we are expecting the next years. One in Mo i Rana, as I mentioned. The cost framework of this airport is 3.3 billion Norwegian crowns. They will start constructing this airport next year, and it's supposed to be opening in 2025. It's actually a historical decision because it's the first new regional major airport that has opened since 1975 in Norway. And then 3 hours north from here, we have Bodø, which is also building a new airport that will be located 900 meters south of today's spot. And what is interesting is that today's airport will be transformed into a new city district with focus on zero emissions and sustainable solutions. And of course, this airport will also be a regional hub for the market needs and charters and freight. Bodø is also working to get the National Test Center for Green Aviation located there. It's not yet decided upon where to locate this, but I think there are good chances to succeed upon getting it in Bodø, because they have a large competence network on aviation there. Next. Very briefly, I think it's relevant to mention the developments of especially battery establishments in this region. We have Freyr that is building 4 battery factories here in Mo i Rana. They are investing 20 billion Norwegian crowns the next 4 years. So it's actually the largest land-based green industrial investment ever in Norway. It will create 500 new jobs directly, and then we will have, of course, more jobs in relation to this. Freyr is also establishing a factory in Vasa, as we know now. And then we have different other initiatives which is relevant to the green shift and aviation. It's production of hydrogen, e-fuels, and then we have land-based fish farming, as you can see to the picture to the right here. And of course, there's a lot of talk about offshore wind farming here in this region. Yes, next please. And just lastly, I would just mention the new project coming up, Nordic Battery Belt Logistics. It has just started. Kvarkenrådet is the project owner. And due to this emergence of battery establishments with Freyr in Vasa and Mo i Rana and Northvolt in Skellefteå, we are looking into the new requirements for logistics and transport infrastructure that will come up due to this new developments. So if you want to know more about it, you can go into Kvarkenrådet's webpage and read more about the project. Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. I think Wolf, another very good presentation, providing a good overview of what is happening, and I really like how on one hand we have seen the great potential and the developments internationally happening within the field of electric aviation, but also the case being so strong for the geography of the Kvarken region. So I think these things fit so well together, and it's great to see that in these 2 presentations today. Before we go to the mentee part, I just want to open the floor in case there are any burning questions you might have come up with as an audience while you saw these 2 presentations. If there's anybody who has a direct question at this point to either of any of the speakers, please raise your hand, and now is your chance to ask that. Lars, please go ahead.
No, thank you. Thank you for very interesting presentations from both Sweden and Norway. I think it was Hans Peter that mentioned willingness to have more regional public transportation. not only directed towards Stockholm. That means that, for instance, Umeå Airport, that is the only Swedavia airport in the region, and eventually also Skellefteå Airport could be important destinations for flights from other airports in the region. This has been discussed previously quite often, and I think one important message to get this would be that politicians and business in the region vocalized this demand. I think so far it has been very much focused on having direct connection to Arlanda. And the idea that with direct connections to Arlanda, you will get growth in your municipality. Without that, the municipality will go down, so to say. But I think the option to have Umeå and Skellefteå as local hubs would be as well good as well, or even better, I would say, because then you would get people at least into the region. And when there are any obstacles in the aviation market due to weather and other things, delays and so, then it's easier to take a bus or taxi or a car, rent a car to get to the destination. So I think Trafikverket, the Swedish Transport Administration, could change the view if there is a strong demand from politics and business for this. Thank you.
I would like to answer it. Lars is totally right. The thing is, in Sweden now, these procured transports, people transports, are only to and from Stockholm, just as Lars said. And the most growth we actually get out of that system is the growth in the Stockholm area, due to the fact that we're actually feeding our passengers into Arlanda, or in some cases Bromma Airport, and they thrive from it. What we would need is a different legislation that allows regions and municipalities to actually procure transportation regionally, no matter how the transportation is made. Today we can have rail, we can have wheels, but we cannot have flight. That is illegal today for regions and municipalities to procure. And the other thing that Lars is also totally correct in is that we need to give these needs and also our wishes for more local, more regional transportation a voice, and it needs to be a quite united voice to be strong enough to really affect the transport administration, because the transport administration of Sweden, as I know in Norway as well, is, well, it's not a small thing to change their minds, if you say so. So thank you, Lars, for focusing on that, because that will be a really big issue in the nearby future, and I think that would be possible to start a separate project just on that. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Lars and Hans-Petter, for these comments. I think a very valuable addition to frame the systemic challenges and systemic perspective also, if we zoom out from the specifics that we have been discussing here. Pretty good. Now we will actually have some mentee questions to also get a little bit of information from the competence network that we are gathering here today and that we have gathered in other seminars. I hope most of you are familiar with Mentee. So if you go to mentee.com on your phone or your tablet or your computer and put in this code, then you will be able to participate so that we can actually see a little bit what different perspectives exist within the audience and perhaps even discuss them a little bit. So I think if we can go to the first question, Simon. We're interested to know from the audience today, which flight routes do you initially see that there is a need for? What lines do we think are actually quite urgent at the moment, or have a clear benefit at the moment from your point of view? interesting that we see some triplets happening here. I think that's also very good when we talk about the earlier trends that I think Hans-Peter was also talking about in terms of changing travel patterns, hub and spoke versus other lines. And also, please feel free to raise your hand if you have some specific comments you would like to raise to any of these questions. We're happy to elicit a little bit of discussion. I think this is a good start. Another triplet coming up. Shall we go to the next slide, Simon? Next question. And thank you for providing this input. This is also very good for the further work in the FAIR project as a very quick survey. The next question, which actors or organizations would have a benefit of fast regional transport? Happy to have input here as well, or comments if you have any. Great. It's great to see that we can see so many benefits from different points of view when we're talking about the public sector perspective, private sector, new business, established business, tourism. Are there any comments from our audience about this? Are there any actors or organizations that you feel are overlooked often in these kind of discussions that should be actually brought to the front, or any other comments? Right, then maybe we can go to the next question, Simon. There's a couple more we have planned for today. This one is about the potential flight routes to neighboring countries. Happy to hear your thoughts as the audience from new or existing ones that come to mind first from your point of view, your expertise or your role. Can you scroll down a bit, Simon, or are we just getting too many? Too many.
I think we're getting too many.
That's good, in a way.
I was trying to, but no.
Also, a very good input to work with further within the FAIR project. Shall we go to the next one, Simon? Which regional destinations do you see a need to travel to? Where destinations can actually be interpreted quite widely, I think, because it might also be a way to expose a little bit what purpose we see for electric aviation. Good. This aligns, of course, also rather well with how we started today. Before we started, Simon, would you like to go to the next one? I think that is the last one, right? And this we have a multiple choice version. Do you think that electrical flights will increase the regional employment market? I think this is also a topic we can maybe discuss a little bit after this question. So far, we seem fairly convinced that it's definitely yes. We see some less confident voices. Seeing a fairly confident yes from the audience. Is there anybody who would like to comment a little bit on their perspective on this question, or something they would like to share?
I could say something if that's okay.
Yes, please do.
I especially see that this battery belt development is something which could benefit from this regional aviation, because as we know, there's no bridge between Vaasa and Umeå yet, perhaps in the future, but before that, I think that there is no quite good option if we want to link these battery factory workers, for example. And it is most likely because there is a shortage of experts in the future, that there will be people who need to go over from factory to share their expertise. So this would definitely help in this, to have these sort of aviation opportunities.
Thanks, Antti. I think that's a good addition to this. Is there any other comment? Does anybody would like to respond to Antti's suggestion, comment? Or maybe now is also time to open the floor in general to any other comments that have matured, thoughts that have matured over the course of this seminar. If there are any Other, oh, sorry, we skipped one question. We have one more. Which possible synergy effects do you see of regional electrical aviation? More open question that I think is very relevant to all the collaborative efforts that are going on, especially considering also the FAIR project with its very wide base of support within the region. A more difficult question, perhaps this one. Stronger tourism. Mm-hmm. Tourism seems a very popular potential here, as well as new business, of course. Easy to live inland, I think, is a very interesting comment, considering also the post-pandemic age, and that hopefully is coming. The things we have learned along the last year and a half, I think, aligns also with these kind of trends and technology developments in electric aviation. Very good to see the broad perspective on the potential here, from culture to sports to business, knowledge economy. All right, Simon, perhaps we can go to the next one. We've reached the end of the presentation. Yes, great. I want to thank you all for your participation here today. I want to thank our speakers for very good summaries that they gave us of the work that is ongoing within FAIR. As I said, here is some contact information for who to contact for the respective work packages within the FAIR project if you are looking to connect and share knowledge or would like us to share knowledge. This is what we are for. So please don't hesitate to reach out, and you can reach everybody involved in the project through these work package leaders and the project management. You can also follow us on the LinkedIn page, FAIR Promoting Electric Aviation, where we will post updates around this seminar and other output of the project and activities. Lastly, if we go to the last slide, I would like to take a moment to highlight that this project is owned by the Kvarken Council, and next to our work package partners, we are very lucky to have a very broad network of financiers and supporting partners that make this project possible and that help us connect to many different layers of regional actors from the public and private sector that are all supporting us and each other in this endeavor to understand how we can promote electric aviation in this region as quickly and efficiently and in a good way. That will be my closure of today's session. Thank you very much again, and hope to see you at the next FAIR webinar.